right, who's in the, Tom, is that the booth guy? Tom, I'm gonna ask you to take attendance for this. Yes. What? I'm running it to you.
Because I'm always running off my mouth.
Oh, since you said that, you have 3 minutes. Well, Jean Marie, could you give my pen, please?
Yes, sir. After insulting me, yes.
That was in the use.
What are you doing in this seat? That's my seat.
Oh, sorry, I got her early. So the graphics for my annual meeting. Nice. This is for. We're good.
Go ahead.
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 workshop from the town of Scarborough, Maine Town Council. First, we'll take some quick attendance. Mr. Hall.
Yes. Councillor Katarina.
Here.
Councillor Hamilton.
Here.
Councillor Johnson. Here. Councillor Anderson. Here. Councillor Fuji. Here. Councillor Gleisteen.
Here.
And Chair Johnson.
Here. Second, we'll jump right into our agenda, but before we do, I'll just do a quick rundown of the agenda. Currently, there's going to be at 5:30, there will be a half-hour discussion of the comprehensive plan amongst council members. And then at 6 o'clock, it may be a little choppy simply because at 6 o'clock, we had a legal public hearing notice about the contract zone. So we do have to start the contract zone that's on the agenda at 6. And then if time avails, or if we feel like we need it, we can loop back to the comp plan. Also, just to make it clear to everybody, it is a requirement that the planning board is here for the contract zone discussion and the public hearing at 6. So there are members of the planning board here in the audience and virtually. So if anybody would like to speak, just at 6 o'clock, this come sit, or we'll move you up probably at 6 is what we'll do. And also just looking ahead at the regular town council meeting, we have the official public hearing on the comp plan at the regular town council meeting. So the planning board will at least hang out for that because they're required to be here as well. So it's a little choppy, but we're trying to do 2 things at once. So we had to get slightly creative. With that, we're going to do from 5:30 to 6. We will have discussions on the comp plan. I think from our discussions last week or last time we saw each other, we were pretty clear that we wanted to just bring forth any specific edits, might be too strong of a word, tweaks, or some massaging of language. So Jay, could you tell us where we are with that? I think there's probably 2 to somewhere between 2 and 4 small edits we're looking at.
Sure. Yeah, happy to do those. I'm sitting over here because I think it's going to do the best video. So, so let's see. As part of the process so far, I've heard, been reached out by 2 members of the public, and these are really what I would call Scrivener's errors. One is to change on the acknowledgements page. We listed Judy Roy as a prior member. She would prefer to be called Judith Roy. I think that's a fairly straightforward, easy change. And then on page 135, this was an item that was brought to us. There's a map that's intended to illustrate public boat launch access points, which Councillor Hamill worked quite a bit with the Marine Resources to committees. And just in the data transference, there was some error in the mapping. And so there's a proposal to just revise the map and show CV Landing in the right place in a couple of, those are the 2 that are really coming from public outreach. And then as early as today, or recently as today, I received 2 emails from counselors. And do you want me to bring those forward, or do you want to hear from the,
Yeah, if you don't, why don't you go, let's just bring all four of them
I'll keep-
forward and then we'll
I'll
take it
keep
from there.
running,
Yep.
running with it.
Yep.
So from Counselor Johnson, on page 154, this is the introduction to the driving successes portion of the plan, which is sort of the implementation piece. He's seeking to change, and correct me if I get it wrong, of course, a word in the statement that talks about the long-range planning committee's charge is to oversee the implementation of the plan and to prepare amendments. And the suggestion is to change the word prepare to suggest amendments. So that is the one that I received. And then actually I might ask Karen to speak to this. Councilor Clucci picked up on a Scrivener's error, I think it was, on page 59. This is a new section, another new section. There's a call out on the Downs development, and I think we just missed a year.
Yes, we listed the term as 20, and what we were really trying to say is it's a 20-year build out, but it's a 30-year tip. So we just need to change 20 to 30.
So it's clarifying the tip term. So those are the 4 amendments that I've seen, and
And Jay, just for my own education, I know
Yes.
Allison Bristol had sent an email to us this morning or this afternoon.
Yep.
That the nature of that email was that she was satisfied with the changes that have happened. Is that correct? I read it that
So
way.
Miss Bristol's here in the room. If you
Oh, hey,
haven't had a
Allison, I'm
chance to
sorry.
meet her, and I did actually get a chance to crane my neck around and say thank you for the email.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think- And I believe Miss Bristol is satisfied with the
Okay, all
language.
right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. So since you're here, yeah, okay. I guess that will. we take that? Is
Satisfied,
that pretty
not-
good?
Right.
It's all bad for government. Yeah. Okay. Great. So that's great. So it sounds to me like we have 4 minor edits. Does anybody have any particular issues? Councilor Gleisning?
Yeah, Jay, I meant to send this to you a couple of times, but it's so unimportant. I forgot myself. My name is spelled wrong, my first name.
Perfect. Sounds like we have 5
I'm not
then.
sure how we
Yeah.
misspelled
Yeah.
Betsy. I
Yeah.
would expect it to be the last name, but okay, we'll look at that. Thank you.
Councilor Gleisning, did you have anything else before I lower your hand? No, okay. So it sounds like we have 5 small edits. Are there anything to add or any comments to the 5 that we've heard or any objections to them?
No, I did want to ask Jay though for clarification if I
Yep.
could. So Jay, you've referred to these as quote unquote Scrivener's errors or whatever, but there's an official term for this, right? That these would be non-substantive changes to the comp plan. Could you just take us through that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. So there's a requirement through the state adoption process that the plan be posted at least 30 days before adoption. So council is currently sort of on track, presumably, for a consideration of this on June 30th. So we posted this, given holidays and such, to the website May 28th as written. So in conversation with the town attorney, really this sort of his read and advice to the town is that, if there's minor edits, so long as they're talked about publicly and everyone has an opportunity to see them and understand them, that's fine. But if there's any substantive, and so that would be really, are we removing Oak Hill as being an activity center, right? Something of that ilk would be a substantive change. I think, no one could argue with actually spelling Betsy's name right or changing a word. I don't think we've changed any intent with the proposals that are being talked about here.
Thanks.
Be pretty comfortable with that.
Good. Any others? Councilor Clucci?
So this isn't a suggested change. I just thought it might benefit me and maybe some others. If you could just talk through, like, I'm particularly interested in the infrastructure capacity section. Don't know why, but can you talk through how you came up with some of those guiding suggestions or recommendations?
Infrastructure capacity.
So it starts with like opportunities to better use school facilities on page 144, and then talks through the library initiative,
Sure.
making sure public safety keeps pace with growth, improving stormwater. And then it talks about a community center as well.
So I think, and Karen, I'll have you jump in, of course, as well, but on a number of those, we really reached out to the experts in the field. Karen, I know you were really our point person with the library folks. You know, we heard from the fire chief and the police chief in terms of public safety. So that was really at that point, long range and planning staff, Karen, taking information in and working it into the plan.
I was gonna say, and once it was in the plan, the committee, the long range planning committee with the council liaisons went through, and there were some things that were removed or rewritten slightly. But the long range planning committee and the council liaisons sort of had the last say on what stayed in the plan.
And I think it is worth touching on the community center, right? That's something that's been talked about in town. There's been different efforts and energies around it over the years. And I think for the comp plan process, this really started with Planapalooza. When we did when we broke out into groups and everyone had maps to identify opportunities and challenges, it was pretty remarkable that every map talked about the opportunities for a community center. That's a wish item. Now, how do we pay for it? That's obviously another part of the discussion, but I say that's really where that conversation came from, and why you're seeing that is we heard that through the public process, that there is interest around it. And so the plan recognizes that there is interest, but there's work to do to get there.
So that's actually very helpful. So for situations where we have a department head or a group already in charge of it, you started with them.
Yes.
For things like community center where there wasn't necessarily a clearly defined lead, you use the process to kind of build it.
And then backfilled a little bit as we went further on. There were activities that happened and we tried to keep up with current events, so to speak.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any others? No? Okay, transition. Tom, could we do the contract zone presentation before the public hearing? I assume that we can, correct? We have 20 minutes, so, or do you want to wait?
So I guess my thought would be, within the ordinance, it really talks about the process for the joint meeting, starting with it lays out sort of what the 6 or 7 steps are.
Okay,
And so I think we'd probably be best to
Okay.
wait till 6.
Fair
I hate
enough.
To sort of have
Okay.
blank time, but I think it's just our safest course of action,
I
so to
might be able to
speak.
stretch us a little bit. I think it's relevant to bring
No,
up.
that's not what I was asking for. I was. No, go ahead.
So I'm liaison to the Conservation Commission, and
Oh, that's right.
there's been some discussion at the committee level, no formal action, about now that there's the Maine won't wait document at the state level that Governor Mills has put out. Should we be referencing it or taking a stronger stance on different items? And I went back and forth with Jay a little bit, and I was satisfied with his response, but I just thought it'd be worth bringing it up. And that we do actually now reference it in this version of the document. The language is not committal, I guess. It says that we will coordinate and work towards it, because that's a living, breathing document, just like this is. I don't know, maybe you can explain it a little better.
Sure, and I think this was really actually one of the things broadly, and then we come back to this, that when we first launched the comp plan, the first draft in 2018, that was really one of the comments we heard in this room was, well, this is a plan. Was it due? And I think it's really, yes, it's called the comprehensive plan, but it's really, it's the blueprint, it's the framework, it's the implementation. That's where the rubber really meets the road. And so I think, in circling back to what you were saying, the email that we received from the Conservation Commission member was really, sort of saying, well, what does coordinate mean? Maybe it should say this other, frame it another way. My response, to John or Councilor Clucci was certainly happy to work at whatever direction council's interest is. But my read of it is this sets up that as we do work on climate adaptation planning, we need to take into consideration the Maine won't wait plan. What does that mean? That's going to be, the next lift. That's the next implementation stage. So, and I think a lot of this plan is really about that. It talks about traffic and housing, and well, there's still work to do to achieve those goals or interests.
Good.
Good. For a reminder for everybody, we do have a public hearing on it at the top of our 7 PM meeting, but additionally, this is set for second reading and finalization on our meeting on June 30th, right? So the next time we as a council will talk about this will be second reading in June 30th. And all of these small edits will be done when we vote on the 30th.
Yep.
Okay, with that, I think we'll take a quick 15-minute recess and reconvene at 6 o'clock.
Yep. Good job.
Oh. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We are now at the 6 PM portion of the workshop. 6 PM is a discussion on the proposed amendment to the contract zone located at 311 Beach Ridge Road. And before I hand it over to Karen, I'm going to just ask if there's any members in the public that would like to speak to this. There are not. So perhaps, Tom, do you want to start and hand it to Karen, or are you?
Yeah, this process,
Yep.
this is an amendment to an existing contract zone. The council may recall, the planning board for that matter, we did modify our regulations, so the process for an amendment mirrors the process for a new request for contract zone. So it really added some additional layers and process really for public's benefit. I think this is our first opportunity to go through that process more fully and completely. And so this evening, we do have Karen Martin's here to assist with presenting the request on behalf of the property owner, who is here with us as well. So Karen, I'll refer to you and you can take it from there.
Sure. Thank you very much. Karen Martin with the Scarborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm here with the owner of the property, Ashley Butcher. And what we want to talk about tonight is an amendment that would really allow her to have a home as well as her business.
Betsy, did you have a question before? I'm sorry, you raised your hand, so
Is Karen's mic on?
maybe not. Karen, is your mic on?
Thank you.
Is that better, Betsy?
Just start over if you could.
Sure.
Much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, Karen Martin, I'm with the Scarborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm here with the owner of the property, Ashley Butcher, and she is going to talk a little bit about her business in a few minutes. But what I wanted to do is go through a few details just to catch you up on what's going on. So this is an amendment to allow a residential unit on the property as well as the business. And I'll go into some detail in a few minutes. As some of you may recall, this was a contract zone. In fact, it's the second contract zone ever done for the town back in, I think, 1997. And at that time, it was a home occupation for a spa. And what the owner at that time wanted to do was use the entire property, the entire residential unit as the business. And so that was approved. And then in 2007, there was a bit of a expansion of the unit that the business is operating in. And then in 2018, there was another minor revision to allow some additional spa services to occur on the property. So in 2018, Ashley has come along and she purchased the property. And again, this is a business of about 2,700 square feet used as a day spa. And she would like to take the day spa, move it to a separate new structure on the site, and then convert the original house that was converted to a business back to a residence. And then she would be living on that property. So the new structure would be about 1,200 square feet, and it's considerably smaller than the existing business is. There's no change to the contract zone border. The existing parking will remain the same, and all other aspects of the contract zone will stay in place in terms of parking, limits on the number of employees and things like that. And just, we did try, Jay and I worked with Ashley a while back, trying to see if we could really fit her back into just a regular home occupation. And the problem there is she does have an employment of more than one outside worker, so the regulations would not work for just strictly a home occupation. But I do want to let Ashley talk a little bit about her business and tell you what she's planning on doing.
Great. So I purchased it from the previous owners, February 2018. It was an established business. We do massage, facials, nail care, skin care, and now hair when I took it over in 2018. And just due to the current climate of COVID, we have not nearly the employee volume or customer volume. So we're just looking to downsize it as the current building is just much too big for what we need currently.
And then I'm happy to show the exhibit, exhibit 6, if, thank you.
You're welcome. Just give me 1 second to
Sure.
pull it up. My bookmarks aren't working, so I'll just scroll on down.
That's all right.
It's exhibit 1. Exhibit 3. Articles of organization, exhibit 5.
Exhibit 6.
Exhibit
Yay.
6. And let's see if I can rotate this real quick. What, did I have it? Okay, sorry.
There we
All
go.
right. Okay, go for it, Karen.
Okay. So there's the larger structure, which is marked as the existing structure there. That's where the business currently is. That's the structure that will become Ashley's home. And then you can see the parking that's there. And then if you go up to the little dog leg at the top, you'll see another smaller structure. And that's the general location of the proposed 1,200 square foot business. And then obviously Ashley will have to do, if you guys are amenable to her plans, she'll be going through site plan review with the planning board where she will be ticking all the boxes in terms of landscaping and all the details that go into the site plan. But that's generally what's going on. If we could answer any questions.
And Jay was kind enough to inform me, I do have to follow a pretty rigid process here. So just bear with me. I completely forgot. Thank you, Jay. So I'm going to check off presentation by applicant. That is done. Number 2, comments from town staff. Jay, do you have any comments?
I really don't have much to offer in this. I guess the one thing that I don't think I've heard stated yet is this is in the rural farming district, the RF district. And so day spas, or really what we would call this is a, health service, what's the?
Well, it was originally a home occupation.
It was originally a home occupation, but in our definition, this use isn't allowed as a separate use. So that's really what the contract zone is for, is to permit this use. to
Originally.
continue. Yep,
Great.
yep.
Yep.
So
Okay.
not much more to offer.
Okay, comments from town staff is complete. Comments from the members of the public? I'm going to consider that complete. Response or rebuttal from the applicant? Any rebuttal from anything you just heard? None? Discussion among members of the planning board and town council, which may include questions posed to the applicant, staff, or the public. Okay, so with that, I'll open up to anybody that is here with us virtually or around the table. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Ms. Hendrickson?
Yes. Is this on?
It should be. Can you guys hear her? No.
Is it right range light crew? Yes, light's great. This one's on.
Yeah, that one's definitely on.
All right, I appreciate the discussion that Karen had, and we do have the material that Jay has sent out. I'm familiar with the building on the contract zone because I was on the planning board when it last came before us. I'm also familiar with the services that provided there because I've stopped in a couple of times. So it is a very quality operation that's out there. And I guess I would have a concern if the lot were a lot smaller because there is the wetlands out there. But the property itself, in terms of the planning board, would hold the two buildings. I note that what Jay brought up is the issue that the zoning ordinance does not permit more than one principal building or use on RF zoned properties. And I would assume that that's what the town council is going to be grappling with in terms of that use. Other than that, as I said, this is a quality organization, quality business. I'm comfortable that if it came before the planning board, all of the requirements could be met in terms of the new building, in terms of any renovations going to the old building. I would ask the applicant, how many current employees do you have and how many would you anticipate having if you downsized?
So before COVID, we had 18. Now we currently have 3, and we would probably only want around 10 for the new one.
Right, so I don't see any problem arising with the parking that's there currently. I assuming that there's going to be no change in hours of operation. The employees are going to be fewer. There's not going to be a difference in noise. There's not going to be a difference in use. As I see it, the only question that's there is the fact that there are 2 principal buildings. Other than, luckily, that's not the planning board's decision. That's the decision of the town council. But I see, I don't think the planning board would have any objection, any concerns about changing the operation out there.
Ashley, are you eliminating some services when you're downsizing? Are you getting rid of the massages? Just,
No, so currently we have 3 rooms for massages. We just want to have 1. We have
Yeah.
3 rooms for skincare. We just want 1. We have 6 manicure stations. We just want 3. So we just really want to cut back everything.
and were you treating all those guys as employees? Or were they booth renting from you? Were they independent? I mean, were the massage therapists independent contractors or?
They were all employees.
Really? Okay.
I'm just curious, are you not starting to see more of an uptick in demand now that the mask mandate and everything has gone away? I know people who are actually going out. I took my son to get his haircut for the first time in
Yeah.
like a year. So are you not anticipating that and you really just want to keep the operation small, or do you see a future where you would potentially want to expand?
I mean, yes, it is starting to get a little better. Unfortunately, we've just had a really hard time having people to employees. So it's just, we lost a huge amount of people for all different reasons, from moving away, just not wanting to be in the industry anymore due to the pandemic. They didn't feel like they wanted to be in such a close room with people. So, I mean, I don't anticipate getting bigger than 10. People are starting to come back, but it's very hit or miss.
Mhm. Okay.
Councilor Katarina?
Yeah, just so make sure I understand this. So this building that you're going to move into is not in existence at the moment, is that correct?
Correct.
And so it's going to require separate septic. And I don't know how the water, I mean, I live up in North Scarborough, this is why I asked. Has there been, can you put a septic in there? Has anyone looked at that? I mean, I know it's something that because I know there are issues sometimes if the soils just don't perk up in my part of the woods, so.
I believe we've had a soil scientist look at that. So
Okay.
that's where, I think that's how they located the building.
Okay,
The-
because
the
I
new
just
building.
didn't want her going down a path and then all of a sudden you hit that, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Johnson?
I had a question for Jay. Jay, what was the item that you brought forward about 2 separate buildings on the same lot?
Sure, yep. So in the zoning ordinance, we have a provision that allows for more than one principal building on lots in certain zones. And there generally are commercial zones, B2, B3, TBC, so on. RF isn't listed as one of those zones that allows 2 principal buildings on a lot. So that would be part of the contract zone amendment would be, we'd now have two principal buildings. We'd have a single-family residence and the business building.
Right, but what was the intent though of multiple buildings on the same lot, not having it? What typically was, because I look at there's two buildings, but they're serving different purposes, right? One's a residence and one's a business, where typically this probably comes into play when they're businesses, correct?
Correct, although every once in a while we do, we'll have conversations with folks in our department who have large lots, say in the RF, who would want to put two single-family homes up, one for them and one for their parents or siblings or
On the
what have
same
you.
lot.
And we say, sorry, we
Right.
can't accommodate that. Why is that provision in the ordinance? It's been the ordinance as long as I've been in town, so I guess I can't speak to what the policy discussion was at the time. Frankly, it's a piece that I sort of have on my, we have a lot of other priorities, but it's one that I think the town could look at modifying, but that's a discussion for another day. But anyway.
Right, thank you.
How large is the lot? How many acres is it?
9.6.
It's 9.6. Okay. And it looks like the new building might be a little closer to neighbors. Did I see that right? Was it further away from your neighbors? Well, clearly they've received this notice, correct? Have you had conversations with the neighbors or?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
The neighbor that it is actually going closer to
Yeah.
is she is a client. So she's like, yeah, I'll just walk right through the path.
This
Yeah,
is-
yeah.
Yeah, she does. She probably does.
That's the way to do it.
Yes.
Well, hopefully she's watching now because you just committed to a discount.
Okay.
Counselor Gleisteen?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I do really appreciate Jay and Karen trying to work through whether this could be turned back into a home business and not have to go through all of this. But I appreciate that the zone just really doesn't allow that. But I really think that was a good discussion to have, and really appreciate that because it was a question that I had. It's a lot for a small business to go through this, but it's there for a reason. And I do appreciate our town staff trying to think out of the box and think about, how do we help our businesses thrive and go through a process like this. So that's my comment. Thanks, Jay and Karen, for looking into that.
Thank you. Any others before we on the next step? Counselor Hamel?
Yeah, I just had a question about, this is a process question. So if we were to decide to, approve this amendment, the contract zone, that it's not precedent setting for other similar requests, right? We would view each subsequent request on a case-by-case basis.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I have for now.
Yep. And we're not really deciding anything this evening, right?
Right.
We're just, yep. Any others? Okay, so that wraps up that part. Next part says comments from members of the planning board concerning the land use implications of the proposed contract zone amendment. I believe Ms. Henderson has spoken to it. Does anybody else want to speak to it? Or I guess you could speak again. Any comments from members of the planning board? Any concerns, comments?
I think she covered everything. It'll be interesting if we see this again at planning board in terms of all the impervious surfaces. Maybe some of it can get reclaimed and put back into, as vegetative property. One question for the applicant, is there a road or access to that? I'm looking at the exhibit 6. Is there a road or access to the house that is on the right side?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that is the previous owner's house after she built the spa. So yeah, there is, there's like a kind of, but there's trees there now.
Okay, so it's not impervious surface anymore.
No.
Okay, and there's a curb cut coming off of Beach Ridge Road that goes to that house, and it doesn't share a shared drive. So that's a curb cut going into that house.
I don't know what.
Driveway.
Okay.
It's a lot of planning board speak, right?
I was just making sure that driveway that goes to the existing building is one, and there's a driveway that goes to that home as a separate driveway. Very good.
And the answer is yes, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all
Okay.
right. Yep.
That's all I have.
Any others? Okay, the last bullet point is,
Mr. Chair, I'm
yes.
sorry, I guess this is just popped in my head, looking at the driveway. The driveway is not, the entrance to the driveway is not on your land, but I assume there's an easement for that driveway unless the boundary lines aren't correct.
So I believe, yeah, one, if you don't mind, our tax maps are not survey level, right? So
Yeah, I
they're
know.
typically in error. And as was pointed out, when this project was developed, it was at one point shared ownership between the
Right.
two lots. And so there was a driveway connection.
Yep.
That driveway connection sounds like is now broken between the two lots, and each lot has their own driveway access.
But the entrance to the driveway is located on her land, not on the Iris's land next. I know your neighbors, that's why I know.
When I purchased this, we gave an easement to the neighbors.
Oh, you
for
gave an
their
easement or
driveway.
they gave one? Not that
We-
it matters.
we
Okay,
gave
there's an
one to-
easement there.
Yeah, we
I
gave.
mean,
one
I'm
to
just
them.
bringing that up again. I'm nitpicking a little, and maybe I should be on the planning board, not on the town council, but.
That's in lieu of the discount.
Yeah, no, just to make sure that's not an issue moving forward, that's all.
okay, the final bullet is preliminary town council discussion of the request.
And so there is essentially at the end of your discussion, town council is to give direction whether it should move forward with conditions, or
Yeah.
this is the end of the road.
Anybody want to start the discussion? Council Katarina?
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with this property, and, drive by it frequently and whatever, and basically, we're not changing the use per se. I mean, we are technically, but, I think that it makes perfect sense. I don't have any issues with it. I see absolutely no issues with giving this as a contract zone. It's gonna be used pretty much the same way as it is, except they're converting what's now the spa into a single family home. I mean, so
Yep.
to me, I think it should move forward to the planning board.
Council Gleisting? You're on mute, Betsy.
Move forward.
Was that it? Move forward? Sorry. Okay. Betsy, your hand keeps going up every time I lower it. It gets very confusing. It's gone now.
And I didn't really realize you were lowering it, Paul, so only.
Oh, that's what's happened. So we've been fighting over your hands
No,
this whole
we're
time. right?
fighting over the up and down. I'll do this and you can't lower that one. How about
Yeah.
that?
Any others? Council Anderson?
I would just say move forward.
No concerns. Thanks for coming forward. Sorry, it's so much of a process to do this.
Any
Good
others?
luck.
Thank you.
My only comment is I think it's a great example of a resource for small businesses. My guess this was very overwhelming for you at the beginning. So as Betsy said, kudos to Karen for, this is one of those services that are offered that don't necessarily get broad enough attention, but you were probably in a situation that was overwhelming and you're almost close to a resolution. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you for coming. And with that, we're going to break until 7 PM. Yeah. We walked around town hall once.
That's right.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 regular town council meeting for the town of Scarborough, Maine. First order of business, is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is roll call. Tony?
Counselor Pucci,
Here.
Counselor Glystein,
Here.
Counselor Anderson,
Here.
Counselor Katarina,
Here.
Counselor Johnson,
Here.
Counselor Hamel,
Here.
and Chairman Johnson.
Here.
All counted. Thank you.
Item number 4 is general public comments. Comments for anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Anybody in the audience like to speak to anything not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes for the June 2nd, 2021 regular town council meeting and the June 9th, 2021 special town council meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Discussion? Tony?
Counselor Pucci,
yes.
Counselor Glystein,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Item number 6 is adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have one adjustment to the agenda. I would like to add an agenda item for town council proclamation.
And do I have a second?
Yeah, I will second that.
Okay.
And we also add a legislative sentiment.
Yep. I'll add both. I'm going to add them right before the town manager's report without any objection. Okay, item number 7 is treasurer warrants to be signed. I signed those when I walked in today. So we will call this item number 7B is a town council proclamation. So I'll read the proclamation and then Councilor Caterina, you can just follow up with the legislative and then we'll vote on the proclamation. Here I have a proclamation recognizing the law enforcement's career and contributions of the retiring town of Scarborough Police Chief, Mr. Robert Moulton. Be it resolved by the council of the town of Scarborough, Maine, in town council assembled that whereas from time to time, the extensive contributions to the town the extensive contributions to the town of Scarborough by a particular individual are so outstanding as to warrant special recognition and honor. And whereas Robbie A. Moulton, retiring chief of police of the town of Scarborough, has served in law enforcement for the last 44 years and is well respected by fellow law enforcement officers, fellow employees, volunteers, and residents. Whereas his career began with the town of Scarborough as a reserve officer in 1977 and was hired as a patrol officer in 1978, moving up through the ranks and promoted to chief of police in April of 1999. And whereas during his tenure as chief, the town of Scarborough has entered into shared services agreements with neighboring municipalities, which have resulted in cost savings and increased efficiencies to each municipality. And whereas the Scarborough Police Department has become a model for other law enforcement agencies by being the first department to initiate programs like Operation Hope, the LEAD program, standing for Law Enforcement Assistant Diversion. And whereas not only has Robbie initiated such proactive measures to address the modern day challenges of law enforcement community, he, along with other members of his department, have mentored and trained other agencies striving to be as proactive in all of areas of policing. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Scarborough Town Council in Town Council assembled that the town of Scarborough does hereby recognize retiring Chief Robert A. Moulton for his legacy of service in law enforcement to the town of Scarborough and surrounding communities, expressing our deepest appreciation for all his dedication, commitment to the citizens of town of Scarborough and its police department, and extend to Robbie and his family our best wishes for many years of happiness in the future. Keep smiling. as quote, "It doesn't cost a cent." And before we vote on that and discuss it, there is a second piece of proclamation. I'll let Jean Marie introduce, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I need it to be known that the legislative delegation apologizes. They were not able to be here this evening. They are locked in Augusta, literally, to get their work done. But state of Maine, be it known to all that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, join in recognizing Robbie Moulton of Scarborough, who is retiring as chief of the Scarborough Police Department after 44 years of public service with the department. Chief Moulton worked his way up through the ranks, having begun as a reserve officer in 1977, and has received many commendations and awards for his service. He graduated from the 150th session of the Federal Bureau of Investigation National Academy and has been a certified instructor and Board of Trustees member at the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. Among his many accomplishments, he launched Operation Hope, which became a model for the state regarding interactions with those suffering from substance abuse disorder, and has been widely viewed as both a more compassionate and a more effective way of approaching Maine's opioid crisis. We extend to Chief Moulton our appreciation and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 130th Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. It is signed by Troy B. Jackson, President of the Senate, Ryan M. Fecto, Speaker of the House, Derek M. Grant, Secretary of the Senate, Robert B. Hunt, Clerk of the House, and it was introduced by Representative Christopher James Chiazzo from Scarborough and co-sponsored by Senator Ann M. Carney of Cumberland, Senator Stacy Brenner of Cumberland, Representative Kyle R. Bailey of Gorham and Scarborough, and Representative Sophia B. Warren of Scarborough. And so this has been voted on by the House of Representatives, and I'd like to make sure that you get this, Rob. And if we were in the legislature, everyone would stand and clap, so I would ask everyone to do that.
Robert, you're going to come up and have a bigger photo op in a second too, so. So with that, I'll have a motion on the proclamation introduced.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Caterina.
Yes, I just wanted to add my own thanks to Robbie for everything he's done for the town of Scarborough. I've lived in Scarborough since 1988 and I've heard nothing but good things about Robbie. And also, when I first was on the council, I was fortunate enough to be part of the council who approved his idea regarding Operation Hope, which having lost a family member to substance use disorder not too long prior to Operation Hope being started, that was just huge. I think for this town to do and to set that example for law enforcement. And also, I'm always very happy to tell everyone, when they get going about the police and the police this and the police that, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, whoa, 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 we're not Chicago. This is Scarborough. And I think that we got some big shoes to fill, Robbie. So thank you for everything you've done.
Any others? Councilor Calucci?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for your service as well. I haven't always paid close attention to things going on in town, but I've always been intrigued when I hear something new coming out of the police department, whether it's partnering with the schools in a different way, Operation Hope, or you've shown a real willingness and desire to try something new and see if it works, and see what we can learn from it, and then to share that knowledge. And I think you've been a good example of what policing can be. And thank you for your service, and I wish you all the best in your retirement.
Any others? No, I'll share a quick personal story. About a year ago, I have a friend of mine or an acquaintance who had recently received several OUIs and was in a very bad place, and Scarborough resident. And I reached out to Robbie to ask if there's anything we can do. And it was already done. They were getting daily check-ins from our service navigator provider. Robbie already knew exactly the situation, the location, and the approach wasn't about punishment. It was about caring for the person and of course, keeping the residents around this person safe. But I was just absolutely blown away that I had reached out thinking that this person was alone and there was nothing there. And the amount of services that were already surrounding this person was truly incredible. And that's all to Robbie. And lastly, I'll just say I'm slightly embarrassed and humbled to even read this proclamation. I don't feel like I should. I am a very small fish in this town, and Robbie, the amount of contributions you've made to Scarborough are well beyond, I believe, any of the 7 of us ever will. So with that, I'm going to ask you to come up and take a photo with all of us, and one more round of applause. So.
Just come around with you.
Keep it from the waist up, Allison.
No.
Yeah. You
Can you give him
want
the
to say anything?
proclamations?
Totally up to you. You're never at loss for words.
Usually not.
You have exactly 3 minutes.
I have 3 minutes. That's right. Let this be your guide. The last time I'll lord over you.
Oh, I took the proclamation. Hold on.
Thank you.
Whoop, just lost that. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't have a lot to say. I just, I feel very blessed. We've had this has been a great community. I've had the pleasure of working with really good police chiefs before me and department heads and town managers. I have seen dozens and dozens of counselors come and go, and always very supportive. And I just would like to thank everyone. My goal has been to try to leave the place at least as good as it was when I got here, and hopefully we've managed to do that. But thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we are we gonna make Robbie stay?
No.
No, Robbie, you want to?
Unless you have comments on the.
He's
comp
way
plan.
too polite. He's gonna sit through this whole meeting.
Unless you have comments for the comprehensive plan, you're free to go. Thanks, Alice.
Okay, with that, we're on to item number 8, which is our town manager's report. Tom?
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To do the call for the vote on
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say,
proclamation.
Oh, we didn't vote for the proclamation. I said something about embarrassed and humbled, right? So it's, Tony, vote.
Counselor Pucci.
Yes.
Counselor Glystein.
Yes.
Counselor Anderson.
Yes.
Counselor Katarina.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we're on to item number 8, which is the town manager's report. Tom?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple quick things, just the results of the validation vote, school budget validation vote yesterday. Certainly pleased with those results. I want to congratulate the efforts of certainly Finance Committee, but also the full council. I think that sends a pretty clear message. It should to all of you that the public in large part is approves of your work in that regard. So terrific job, and certainly an acknowledgement to our esteemed council chair, who spent 3 or 4 hours of his day yesterday drumming up interest and support, donning a costume. The crazier, the better, I think he said. And it certainly didn't hurt, and I'm quite sure it helped. So I appreciate that's over and above service beyond self, I'll say. I want to make mention to the council and to the public. We have for a year wanted to invite the public into our new public safety building, and just now feel comfortable in doing so. We've decided to combine an open house and guided tours with Summerfest this year, thinking that we can use cross marketing. We'll have hopefully thousands of people on campus already. So details to be finalized, but our sense is that we'll have a short ceremony to begin, probably around 4 o'clock. And then there'll be guided tours and an open house until 7, again, while Summerfest is going on. That's on August 20th. So more details to follow, but we think that's a really good opportunity to finally open our doors and to show what this new facility for all the residents to see. Update on recruitments, very timely with retiring chief just with us. As I've reported in the past, we have gone through a very deliberate selection process. Council Chair Johnson is part of that. I was provided 2 names, and I've chosen not to pursue either one for various reasons. As was mentioned before, it's partially unfair to candidates that I'm comparing candidates to Chief Moulton. But by the same token, he's created an organization and a culture that really deserves the very best. And I deserve, I'm blessed with a very solid command team, feel as though we can serve well in the intervening weeks or a couple of months to really wait for that best opportunity. So just as an aside, I think I've reported in the past, we were somewhat surprised and a bit disappointed with the number of candidates. We only had 9 the first time through. We had a working theory that given the strength of and reputation of our department, that some would not apply thinking that there would be an internal candidate. And that's been verified. We've heard from a number of folks since. And so we're hopeful that when we reopen this, we might drum up some new interest. And I have named Deputy Chief David Grover as interim chief once just to make sure the department understands that they're in good hands in the interim. And I assure you, it's my primary concern, and will be refocused and redoubled my efforts to work through that process. We also have been conducting a search for an IT director. We did interview 3 candidates yesterday, and I'm very pleased with the results and believe we have a candidate in that group. And so I think I'll be moving swiftly to fill that position. And lastly, Deputy Finance Director. Those interviews are scheduled for this coming Friday. So we do have a number of recruitments that are well underway. In terms of ad hoc committee updates, perhaps council liaisons will provide further context. But it appears as though the final charter meeting will be next Thursday, the 24th. They completed their full review. Tony has produced a full red line version that reflects those recommended changes. And there will be some additional ancillary pieces that the committee chair is putting together, but I believe they'll conclude their efforts next Thursday, and it will be turned to the council. I know we're all looking to take a bit of not the summer off, but to lighten our load. I will just remind us all that if the intent is for these questions to go to the voters in November, those ballots really need to be finalized by the first meeting in September. So there is some summer work required. I think you'll be pleased with the thoroughness and the directness of the committee's work. And so I hope you'll be able to kind of work through that fairly directly. And then as regards downtown committee, we are meeting with the consultant that's been hired next Tuesday, the 22nd. So we'll be seeing for the first time kind of a reflection of input the committee's had, the thoughts of the developers. And I believe following that meeting, and again, I defer to the council liaisons, it would be appropriate, in my opinion, to start to get some public input, but we'll actually have something to see and view and react to. And we just simply haven't gotten to that point yet in the process. And lastly, just a housekeeping matter next week. Again, we're meeting every week this month. We do have a finance committee at 4 o'clock. And then at 6 PM, there'll be a workshop and that workshop discussion will focus on I'll call it the Downs traffic improvements, if you will. And that's an issue that we've kind of provided some heads up on, but you'll be able to really get a deeper appreciation for the depth of the analysis taken and the breadth of improvements that are contemplated as part of that project. I know I look at members of the planning board, they're equally interested in knowing more about that. So this will be the first launch, and I think there'll be subsequent meetings to follow as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm available for questions.
Yeah, I have two quick clarifying questions for
Please.
mostly the public. We don't have a meeting next week. It's just a workshop.
Thank
just-
you.
Just for anybody that's watching and ourselves. And then secondly, the consultant for the downtown committee, just to be clear, that's at the expense of the Downs folks. That's not a town hired consultant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, with that, I am on to order number 21054, which is a 7 PM public hearing on the proposed 2021 Town of Scarborough Comprehensive Plan. Before I open it up to the public, the planning board is here with us as required by state statute. So this, and we have long-range planning committee members. Okay. So we are all here. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak? Raise your hand in virtual land. I see none. Is there any members of the public here that would like to speak? I see none. So with that, I will close the public hearing. Planning board members, are you staying, or did you want to take this opportunity to file out, or?
Twice. Tony, for the record.
Roger and Russell, I think I'm just going to boot you guys. Is that okay with you?
For the
Yeah,
minutes, I
okay.
want to make sure they record who was present. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both gentlemen for being here.
Thank you.
Can't. No, okay, perfect. Order number 21055 is a 7 PM public hearing on the First Amendment to the Scarborough Downtown Omnibus Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District and the development program therefore, and the approval of the credit enhancement agreement with the Avesta US Route 1 LP relating to the proposed affordable housing project. This is, if you were watching at home, this is the public hearing on what we discussed at our last meeting with the Avesta project at Oak Hill.
I
And
believe there should be a couple of members from Avesta, not that they are, play any role unless they want to speak at the public hearing. I just-
sure, yep, I'll treat him like a member of the public. Does anybody want to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to move on. Order number 2106 is a second reading on the proposed amendment to chapter 405, the Town of Scarborough zoning ordinance, section 20C, Crossroads Plan Development District, basic standards, letter B, permitted use. This is tabled from a January 2021 town council meeting. This has been, actually, they're asking just to straight up withdraw the request, not even table it. So Tony, do we have to put this on the floor? They've requested it be withdrawn.
Yeah, the other way you could do it is to have someone move and just fail to get a second. It will die by virtue of that. That might be the most
Okay,
effective.
okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move.
Anybody like to second it? I'm sorry, I didn't,
No,
did you cough? I see a fail to get a second. Okay. Order number 21056 is an act on the request to certify the results of the school budget validation referendum election. Tony?
Presented for certification by the town council of the election results for the school budget referendum election that was held on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, sorry. School budget vote was, the yeas were 1,106, the nays were 476. We had 3 blank ballots. We have approximately 19,181 registered voters on our list. There were a total of 1,585 voters who cast ballots. Of that, 628 were absentees. The percentage for the voter turnout was 8%.
Thank you. Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? Tony?
Counselor Clucci?
Yes.
Counselor Glystein?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Counselor Katarina?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Hamel?
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
I will make one note, the Board of Education will be bringing forth their cost, it's like a resolution for their cost centers that the council has to.
Oh, that's right. Yep,
ratify.
yep.
That'll be later
Yep.
on, yeah.
Item number 9 is non-action items, which there are none. Item number 10 is standing and special committee liaison reports. Raise your hand if you have any, please. Counselor Hamel and then Counselor Katarina.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some postings for the Appointments and Negotiations Committee, some recommendations, and they are as follows. For Board of Assessment Review, appoint James Percolidis as first alternate with a term to expire 2021. For Coastal Waters and Harbor Committee, appoint Mr. Darren Garnata as a first alternate with a term to expire 2023. For Planning Board, Richard DePieri from first alternate to full voting member, term to expire 2023. And Richard Scudder from second alternate to first alternate, term to expire 2022. And for Zoning Board of Appeals, move Peter Freilinger from first alternate to full voting position, term to expire 2021. Move Leroy Crockett from second alternate to first alternate, term to expire 2022. And finally, appoint James Percolidis as second alternate, term to expire 2022.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? No. Okay. Counselor Katarina?
Yeah, just quickly, ordinance was originally scheduled for tomorrow, but it's been moved to next Thursday, the 24th at 4 PM, just to let folks know.
Perfect. Thank you. Any others? No, I have 3 quick things. I've already said most of them. Council leadership didn't meet last week. Hence, I had no chairs report. We're going to meet Friday morning this week. I don't suspect there's anything too new on the docket. I think we have a pretty good outline of what's ahead for the summer. We're still waiting on an official application from the Beacon. I assume that's coming, but they have not officially applied, so to speak, for the contract zone. I know the town manager has a phone call with them on Friday, so I'm sure we'll have a clearer direction. He can report out. Just to reiterate, we did shoehorn a workshop in next Wednesday for the traffic movement permit. This is the large $13.5 million traffic project that I think we've actually had some in the know in the article, Scarborough Leader. I think we've been out ahead of the project. So that is next Wednesday. And then lastly, from discussions with Councilor Anderson and Councilor Clucci, last week, I think we all agreed that we need not a CEA 101, but a TIF District 101. So we're not talking about CEAs, but what does capturing value in TIF districts do for us, what it doesn't do for us. And so we have committed to have a workshop in August, that will be a expectation-free workshop, more educational. We already reached out to Shauna, our CEA and our TIF expert. I think that we're going to bring some people together and just discuss how can we leverage this, what makes sense, what not to. So again, not the CEA, but the actual TIF district itself. I think that we've mentioned it lots of times, but perhaps in order to wrap our arms around and maybe agree upon a strategy moving forward, we should all get on the same page. So look for that in August, details to be determined, but it struck me that I think it'd be incredibly beneficial for all of us. So that's what I have. Item number 11, any councilor comments? Councilor Katarina.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I was away for a couple of days. Just got back right before this meeting. And I was disappointed to see the low turnout for the school budget vote. That's so unlike Scarborough and Scarborough residents. We usually have one of the highest turnouts in the state, regardless of what it is, including the school budget vote. So I'm glad it went the right way for us, but folks, remember, don't let other people make decisions for you. Come out and vote. It's really important. And I will tell you that my own husband is in the doghouse because he forgot to vote. So there you go.
Ooh, and you called him out. Any others? No, I think I only, oh, I'm sorry, Betsy, was that your hand?
Oh, yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, so I think there was just not any, a lot of times what drives a vote is, an issue or some of our active groups getting involved. And, this year, it was just, I'll say it again, thanks to the work done last year. We, and the hard work and the controversy last year, there was, we were just in a good position this year, although I do agree with Councilor Katarina. It's not an excuse to not vote, but I just think we didn't have the controversy this year. So, it may behoove the town to consider printing up some signs in the future, maybe putting out a few signs around town, not just at the town hall. Vote on, June 15th or whatever the date is, something like that. If there's nothing big happening, might be something we think about. And I know Chief Moulton's probably not there now, but I feel exactly the way you do, Paul. Don't really feel worthy to speak on that topic, but just from a personal note, I'd just like to say I think the quality of life for myself and for my family in the town of Scarborough has been very good, and in large part it's due to our town services, and in particular our police department and Chief Moulton. And so it's just a community thank you, I guess, to the extent that I was elected to kind of represent folks, but just a personal thank you to the chief for that quality of life I've been blessed to be afforded with.
Thank you. Any others? No, one quick tidbit, just this is the lowest turnout since 2013, but I thought that was interesting because if you think about it, it's the same cycle. So it's 8 years from now. So I think that, and I know that Saco had approximately 300 people vote. So I'm not making excuses, but it is interesting. The stuff is cyclical, and the lowest turnout before this was 2013. So I don't think that's a coincidence. It's it's the off year, not a lot of them. So just numbers wise, I thought that was interesting. With that, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Sorry.
Tony?
Counselor Pucci?
Yes.
Counselor Glystein?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Counselor Katarina?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Hamel?